where do we stop on the do tell someone if you are not interested in dating them? You do that one?
Yeah, we just did that one. I was just gonna say on that one, it's always honesty is the best policy, no matter what. If it's dating or interviewing, and that goes for us as well. I think a lot of times we'll sugarcoat it when we have to give the candidate like the rejection. And when we do that, a lot of times they're thinking of ways, well, what if I could fix that problem by doing this, and what if I could fix that problem by doing that? And if it's not 100% legit the right answer on why they passed, you're just kind of digging yourself into a hole and creating problems that aren't there.
Well, if you're dating a girl and the girl didn't like you, and she came out and said, Cameron, I don't like you because I think you're ugly, then
never would
I know that would never happen.
Obviously, we just deal with like situations that could happen in the real world or whatnot.
No, but I mean that like that somebody would take that harder than if she said, you know what, it's not going to work out. We're just not really compatible. That's what we tell our candidates. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like in an interview process, though, I mean, if they pass because it's legitimately just not like a personality fit, like they're just not that, they just wouldn't work in the company.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really want to tell someone that. Their
so what would you tell them? I would
think
rather have a
honest.
girl be like, you're ugly or you dress funny or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, shoot me straight.
I think there are varying degrees of honesty.
Okay.
Our candidates tend to be like, he can't write code to save his life, ...
Yeah.
And we can be like, they just didn't think your technical skills were quite where they were looking for them at. Like,
but that's
you're saying
the truth, though.
It is. Like, you're saying what it is. Like, I think it was just kind of like, our clients tend to use us as a buffer, and I think it's okay that we be harsh. But I think really at the end of the day, what it boils down to is be honest with both sides of the party. Keep everybody on the same page. The more you're open and honest with us, the recruiter, with the company, with everybody else, and us vice versa, it definitely falls into our court as well. This is where the process is going to go.
We're like a filter. The good and the bad, like a water filter. The dirt gets stuck in us, and the clean water comes out.
Maybe the important thing is to say to our at least our candidates out there, and our clients both also is be honest with us, and we'll decide what information needs to go to the other party.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think it has to be like, you can put a nice, like slant to it, but it has to be the truth. For a girl saying, yeah, I just don't know if I want a relationship right now, I don't waste your time, versus like, dude, you're ugly and I'm not feeling you. I mean, that's a big difference between like right and wrong versus like, your technical skills weren't up to par and they just changed the requirement or
let's say this,
not really looking for that anymore.
Let's say you're hanging out with a girl, you start dating her, and like on the first date, like you're going into it and you think that she's kind of something that she's not, and then you kind of like get to know her better. You realize that maybe she's not. I'm gonna say this, but maybe she's ugly. Maybe you just don't think that she's an attractive person. Are you gonna tell her that?
I don't understand how that would work though.
I'd say it's not so much how you tell them. That could be a completely different thing. I think the point is
the point is
say something. The point is say something and cut the process short if you know you're just not into it. Let's say that, because I think people drag it on, either one, to be nice, two, to keep as an option that they know they'll never kind of take in the end.
And 5 minutes later, we come up with be honest.
Be honest.
I think it's more and more important though the farther along you are in the interview process. If you just had a phone screen and they don't get back to you, I mean, you don't have to call them and be like, yo, I'm not interested or whatever. If there's a phone screen, it's not like obvious that they're into it. It's the same thing with a first date. If you go on a first date with a girl and you're just both not into it, you really have to give that call. Like,
no, a text is very appropriate, I think.
He's that guy that doesn't call her back.
What I'm saying is, like, on the first date or the first interview, have you made that like commitment to where you have to be 100% honest? Or
that
if
you're 100% right.
If you just don't get back to them, I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll like get the point.
That I think you're 100% right. The further the relationship is, the more you kind of owe that person in terms of either a phone call, a detailed explanation, whatever it is, And like, of course, companies develop bonds with candidates. We develop bonds with candidates and companies. If someone's been extended an offer and it's like turned down, like that definitely, you definitely can't let them go via an email at that point. You have to call them, talk them through it. It's like it's a whole situation, and they owe that to us as well. But after like a first phone screen, if it was like not that big of a deal, if candidates interviewing or considering multiple options, they might not even care. They might just kind of brush it off and forget about it altogether.
Yeah. So after 7 minutes, be honest-er.
Be honest-er. There you go. Okay. Do date the type of person you like and are attracted to, whatever your friends may say. Approval by your peers doesn't prove a thing.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Depends on the peer.
I think to some extent disagree.
Let me make my case. I think in the software world, a lot of times people think they know something or hear something about a company, and then they get this whole inflated sense that this company is doing something wrong. Or I'll give you a perfect example, Microsoft. How many people say, don't work for Microsoft, Microsoft's scum of the earth? No disrespect, obviously, but You know, people say those
You
things.
see all my
and then
buildings here, man.
In all honesty, like they're a legitimate company doing good things. So
Phenomenal things.
yeah, but people listen to their friends.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
It's in the eye of the beholder. You shouldn't listen to somebody.
It's not in the eye of your friends.
Yeah.
I think, and here's my point. To an extent, I think you're absolutely right. I think that you have to make a decision that feels right for you. But I'm not going to sit here and say though that sometimes I think people can get kind of blinded by a company. I don't think that at times consulting your friends can be such a bad thing. And unfortunately for us, or at least for me, because I'm saying this, I think sometimes it plays against us. But I do think it's important to consult with people that. I think maybe the most important thing is consult people you really trust. You know, I'm sure there are companies that spend their entire time talking about how ridiculous the other company is. I would say don't necessarily listen to that banner, and that's probably not the people you should be paying attention to whenever you're considering a career change, you're considering a great opportunity. But if you do have your circle of 2 or 3 friends who are in the same industry as you, do roughly the same thing as you, who are well connected and informed and intelligent about those things, I do think it's worth consulting them, because it is important to kind of get the outside opinion. So I think it's a balance. You can't listen to the masses, just like, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder to some extent. At the same time, you know, because like, kind of everybody has their own thing, but to some extent, you kind of do need to listen to your friends. Sometimes you get a little blinded by, you know, any subsequent factor, whether it's the money that you know you can make there, or it's all of a sudden there's a super sexy project that it just seems to really resonate with you. Talking to your friends who really understand either the industry or the kind of girl you're getting yourself into, I think is a smart decision.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, you know, not all friends are created the same. I mean, just on the dating side, there are friends that I would never go to and be like, what do you think of this girl? Because they're just haters by nature, and no matter what, you know, they're gonna be like, oh, dude, I don't think she's for you, and blah blah blah. But at the same token, you have friends who really know who you are, really know probably the best girl for you, and will shoot you straight, you know? Same thing on the job. I mean, of course, you're not gonna like listen to your grandma's advice and not go with Microsoft because she thinks Bill Gates has beady eyes or something like that. But if you have friends who work for companies that compete, know the industry, you know, are up on what's going on, then why not listen to them? I mean, if you trust them enough to be like close friends with them, why would you not trust them enough to at least give you some advice on where you should be?
But I think you have to take their advice, you have to listen to what they say, but you can't base a decision on what they say.
No,
you can't. It has to be your decision.
You don't base any decision in your life off of one person or your own or anybody's opinion. You take it all as a collective.
But I think
all as a collective argument.
What that quote was saying, what it was saying was that you don't date someone because you think your friend won't like them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're saying don't make a job decision because your friends disapprove, for example. And what I even go one step further in saying is don't not interview or don't not consider a company because your friends tell you not to or tell you bad things.
Yeah.
Always consider it for yourself. Weigh in your friend's decision. Let them weigh in or whatever, but then make your own decision.
What you have to use
that's
them
what I'm
as is
saying.
a third-party perspective,
Yeah.
not an insider's perspective. You know, it's like one of those things where you have like a friend who doesn't like your girlfriend, and then you like say something stupid like, "You don't know what it's like when we're alone." And like, you know, it's kind of the same thing with your company, though. I mean, this is more after you've already joined, but you're not going to relay everything that happened in the interview. They're not going to know, you know, from an insider's perspective what the company is. But if you look at it strictly from a third-party perspective, just a completely independent view, take it for whatever it's worth. If it's valid, use it. If it's not, throw it out.
And everything's in the eye of the beholder. Some people love big companies, some people hate big companies. Some people love big teams, some people hate big teams. Some people like good, more entrepreneurial, less entrepreneurial. Everyone loves something different.
Yeah.
Next point.
Next point.
Let's move on.
Do stay positive even when a date doesn't end well. It is most certainly true that you will date a few frogs before you find a prince. How many candidates have you guys found that take it super personally, that take it like super to heart and like are crushed when an interview doesn't necessarily like go their way? My advice is always like, it's not you, it's not them, it's just not the right fit. You're not going to be the perfect fit for everybody. So let's just move on. It's okay.
I have a lot of
It's always
candidates who will
okay.
go and interview with one company and get their heart really set on it, and then it won't work out, and they'll be like, oh, I gotta stop interviewing for, I gotta work on my interview skills, like I'm not up for this, and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, some interview processes aren't gonna work out. Some people aren't gonna feel like there's a match there. The next company could absolutely love you. To some extent, I don't believe in interviewing skills, especially in software recruiting, where it is design, it's development, like how good are your core OO skills.
yourself.
That's gonna translate differently to every company, and I really feel like you just have to go in, keep interviewing, and you'll find that right match for you. Just because X company doesn't think you're right for them, doesn't mean that the next company down the line isn't going to think that they can't live without you.
Yeah.
I think the key is for both, don't fall in love. Stay in a state of perpetual like looking. You know what I mean? Whether you're in that
At least until you
relationship
sign the job offer.
But think about how many
then you can
people
love
we
it.
have, like how many candidates we have that have interviewed with, you know, 5 different companies or whatever, and then the 6th one is like the match. They love them, the company loves the person, everything works out. If they put their head down after the first one and said, I can't do it anymore, I can't do it, I need to stay here, I need to be safe, whatever it may be, they maybe would have not found that next perfect fit for them.
Yeah.
But we spend all of our time saying, and I know everybody in here, we've talked about this in previous episodes of Bing TV, that we really are in, like, for long term, like most of our candidates we place 4, 6, 8, 10 months, a year out from whenever we first get introduced to them, and that doesn't mean that they're not interviewing through those 4, 6, 8, 10 months. It just means that they're not finding the right role for them. I can think of a candidate that Eli and I worked with who interviewed with several different teams, even within the same company, who was just, really needed to find the right home for him, and he got passed on 4 or 5 times, but on the 6th time, he even passed on them in a couple of situations, but finally he found the right home for him.
Yep, up next.